Crescent City Steakhouse, a true neighborhood restaurant operated by the Vojkovic family since 1934, is the oldest steakhouse in the city of New Orleans. Serving only hand-cut, prime-aged, corn-fed beef for over 80 years, Crescent City Steakhouse has become a dining destination for both die-hard locals and adventurous travelers who seek traditional, timeless New Orleans cuisine. Crescent City Steakhouse, 1001 North Broad, on the corner of St. Philip, in the heart of New Orleans.
Fall in love with autumn with PJ's new seasonal lattes. Our pumpkin latte brings you all the flavors of a pumpkin pie with hints of cinnamon and nutmeg, like your favorite holiday dessert in a cup. And our s'mores latte with flavors of toasted marshmallows, warm milk chocolate, and graham cracker cinnamon is sure to bring back campfire memories. The PJ's Fall Seasonal Lattes, available at your local PJ's only for a limited time.
Hey, don't forget my pimento cheese. Of course.
It's okay, I'll take it from here.
Hey, the guy get a seat.
For the love of palmetto cheese.
Good evening and welcome to Primetime Sports. Hey, I'm your host, Scott Alexander, and I am very excited. Can you smell it? It's July 18th. It seems like it's summer still, but it's about to be football season. That's right. The Saints will start training camp next week, and I cannot wait. And LSU, well, they had their media days. SEC media days was yesterday, continues all week, but LSU went. You see the three guys they brought right there. The leader quarterback, Jaden Daniels. Obviously, they got Mekhi Wingo, the defensive lineman, and running back Josh Williams. But that's the star of the show right there. Jaden Daniels came on so strong at the end of the season. He had a signature moment scoring to beat Alabama in the overtime period, and they got the big win against them right there. You saw him score, and ever since then, he has been talked about as a potential Heisman Trophy winner this coming up year, and he's got his sights on possibly becoming a first-round pick. And that was unheard of when he got here because he didn't have any kind of throwing form, but he's gotten better and better and better. We all know he can do with his feet, but he is becoming a leader in this team. You see him right there with Bill Belichick, and he obviously was at the Manning Passing Academy as well. And this guy has the sky as the limit, and I can't wait. He was there. Also, Coach Brian Kelly was asked by the media about his accent when he's recruiting. He got made fun of because he put that Southern accent on when he first got to LSU. You remember that. They had fun with him. But the other thing is, he was talking about how important it is to follow in the footsteps of what his fellow LSU coaches did. Kim Mulkey wins a national championship in her second year, and then she goes to support Jay Johnson at the World Series. You see there, and they win a national title in Jay Johnson's second year. Well, guess what year it is for Brian Kelly? It's his second year. So he's putting the pressure on himself because he knows the expectations at LSU. They won a title in 19, and they have a couple before that. Hey, you don't have to win every year, but they like you to win once in a while. Ask Ed Ogeron. He won one, and he was gone a couple years later. But I think LSU should have some great things happening this season. Speaking of the Tigers, how about this, the ESPY Awards last week? How phenomenal was this? LSU was mentioned nonstop. Livy Dunn, she goes and speaks, the great gymnast. She speaks and says, hey, well, it's great to be surrounded here at this event with national champions. Guys that are superstars in all their sports. It's like another day on LSU's campus is basically what she said. And she's talking about LSU has star after star in every sport. And one of those stars obviously was Justin Jefferson at one time. This guy got the best play of the year regardless of any sport. That's right, that one-handed catch he made Odell Beckham Jr. another former LSU player that he got against the Buffalo Bills was considered the best play in any sport of the entire season, any level as well. Angel Reese, the great basketball superstar who won a national championship. She was the breakout athlete of the year in all sports. How about that? That's huge kudos for LSU. And it doesn't stop there. How about LSU former tennis star at Wimbledon? This guy, Neil Skupski, He wins the men's doubles, an LSU guy. He's from England himself. He played LSU from 08 to 12, but he won the mixed doubles. He's got a couple other titles in mixed doubles, but he won in men's doubles this time. Hey, speaking of Angel Reese earlier, her cousin, Jordan Hawkins, was the first-round pick for the Pelicans. We're going to talk later about him in the show with Logan Graffia, but he and guys like Dyson Daniels, E.J. Liddell, and Dorian Seaborn really look good. So congratulations to them. And speaking of Wimbledon, let's go back. Carlos Alcaraz, he got his big win, his first big win in Wimbledon. He was the 1-1 seed, but he was the 1 seed in the French and lost to Novak Djokovic in that tournament. Well, he got Wimbledon. He got his revenge in 5 sets after going down 6-1 in the first. So congrats to him. Hey, I got to give big ups for the Tulane basketball program. How about Ron Hunter and his guys? He's bringing almost everybody back except for the point guard who's going to LSU, or back to LSU, but they're representing the United States and China as a team. They used to bring all-star teams overseas. Now they do it. Last year it was Kansas, and Purdue has done it. This year it's Tulane. That's respect right there. And how about Derrick Henry's tweet about the lack of respect given to running backs? He is calling them out. They're being treated like second-hand citizens, but how about him? He's taken up for his man Barkley and Josh Jacobs and Pollard, who got franchise tagged and didn't get signed in long-term deals. Christian McCaffrey was very vocal in support, and I.J. Henry too. And as well as our own Alvin Kamara was a silent supporter as well by retweeting all this stuff. And how about this? Cade Beloso is coming up next. The World Series hero for the Tigers. He won Game 1 with the game-winning home run. He's coming up next right here on Primetime Sports.
Can I tell you a cat joke? Just kidding.
Hey, welcome back to Primetime Sports. And like we intimated in the open of the show, hey, Coach Jay Johnson was going to come, but he's got some stuff going on with Skip Burtman today, so he's going to come next week, but I can't wait. There's no consolation prize here because we have one of my favorites, certainly one of LSU fan favorites there is, and a guy that came up as big as anybody else in the College World Series, in the NCAA Regional, and the Super Regional after that. And he got hot, really hot in May, and then he continued it all the way through the end of his career. His name is Cade Beloso. He's a 5-year LSU player. He got there in 2019. Then he had a great freshman year. He's been ups and downs with injuries. And then he came back his senior year and killed it. And LSU won their first national title since 2009. They just did it a month ago, a little bit less than a month ago, but Cade Beloso is joining us from Baton Rouge. He's also going to come down next week, but we want to get a little teaser right now. Cade, New Orleans boy does good up in Baton Rouge. Welcome to Primetime Sports, my friend. How you doing?
Man, I'm good. Thank you for having me.
I'm telling you what, man, listen, it started for me watching you towards the end of the season, and you started getting really hot in May, and some of that in April as well. But then, you're hitting a few game-winning home runs, and the SEC tournament, LSU took 2 tough losses, 5-4 in both those games, but you were on fire. You hit almost 600 in the SEC tournament, and then you kept it going during the NCAAs. You got all-regional team for the regional tournament, the one with Tulane and Sam Houston State, and obviously Oregon State in that. And then the next week, people forget about this, but you're the guy that hit the 3-run home run when it was 1-1 against Kentucky in the Super Regional, and then you take it to the World Series. My goodness. You hit the home run against Wake Forest. People forget about this because this was after LSU had lost to Wake Forest, beaten Tennessee, and then they had to beat Wake Forest twice just to get to the final. Well, you hit the home run in the 3rd inning when the score was 2-2. You made it 5-2 on one swing of the bat, and that's what the score remained. And, of course, the epic game the next day. But then we'll all remember for the rest of our lives, any LSU fan that follows the baseball team will remember that one shot against Florida, 11th inning. It was deep into the night. And that was game 1 of the 3-game series against the Florida Gators in the final. And there's that one swing of the bat, and you put your signature hands up in the air for the home run, and LSU won that one 4-3 in the 11th. Just tell me about this run for the last month and a half. How was that?
Yeah, man, it was special. A special group of guys. I think, and the reason why we made it so special is just because the genuine love we have for each other, and we always wanted to be around each other. Our favorite thing to do is play baseball, so we're at the yard every day playing baseball with each other, and just having a great time. I think that was really all it boiled down to, and didn't have to make it anything bigger than it is. Just having fun playing ball, and we made a good run, and hosted the trophy up at the end ultimately, and that's something special, and I know everybody's going to remember it forever.
You've had such a ride, and I want to just start with this season in general because you come out the gates. We know how well LSU did in the transfer portal. They're high expectations, but there's a lot of teams ranked number 1 at the beginning of the season that don't end that way. And I'm going to recall a couple times 3 different times, I get calls. Everybody thinks that, hey, I know what's going to happen with the LSU baseball team for whatever reason. And a lot of people will call me, never when it's really super positive. It's always like, LSU's done. One of those was Mother's Day, Mississippi State game. We all know there was a big, almost double-digit lead. LSU lost that one. The other one was after the SEC tournament. LSU lost the 2 games. And then after the Wake Forest game, I mean, the one on Monday night when LSU lost that just incredible game. I mean, 3-2 game. Trey Morgan was thrown at the plate, but it was remarkable. And I want to start with that one. What was the temperature of the team after that game? Because each time I kept saying to people, I said LSU will win the national championship. And each time, those 3 times I mentioned, they're like, you're out of your mind. They have no pitching. They can't win the big one and all this and the other. I said they're going to win the national championship. Did I fully believe it? I don't know, but I'm half glass full, and I'm glad y'all made me look good. But the fact is, tell me what the locker room was like after that Wake Forest loss on Monday, because it was such a tough one.
It wasn't bad or down or anything like that. I mean, we know the pitchers we had on the squad, and we had some dudes, man. And, we knew Skeens would be able to pitch on Thursday, so we had to piece it together for 2 games. And, Coach Jay comes into the meeting room after the game, and, he's like, hey, it's all right. We get to play baseball again tomorrow. We get to fix everything we did wrong, continue on the positive, stuff like that. And he wrote out some names on a whiteboard and, listed all the pitchers available for Tuesday and Wednesday, and said, and just wrote Skeens and Hurd on Thursday and said, get them the ball. So, sorry, I got a little cat fight going on in here.
That's all right. We got pilings in the background being driven to the ground. We're all good here.
Yeah, sorry. A couple cats running around. But he wrote Skeens and Hurd on Thursday, and, just drew arrows to them. So, plan was pretty simple. Get Paul Skeens the ball, let him do his deal. But yeah, man, it wasn't down. It wasn't, it's do or die. None of that was said. Everybody knows the circumstance. You don't have to magnify it or anything like that. But yeah, man, just kept playing baseball. That's what we do. And I thought our team was really good at playing well through adversity or playing well through mistakes. And I think the College World Series really showed that.
We're going to touch on this when you come in studio next week, but I want to just give a little teaser right now. Listen, you're a lifelong LSU fan. You had to move away because of Katrina, but you love the Tigers. And what I love most when you said about when I was a kid, I wanted to be, Christian Abar, all these guys from like the 2009 championship team and beyond. And then you are those guys now. You are the guy. We showing you the picture. You get an interview in the post game. Are you holding up that #1 sign, with the flag draped around you? What does it feel like to be that guy that you dreamed about being? I think I have a shot with you and Ryan Schimpf in the locker room back when you were a kid, which is one of my favorites. He was on this show. There it is right there. He was on this show last fall, and he said this LSU team's going to be the next one to win a title, and you did. But what's it like for you, buddy?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's really hard to put in words how special and how much this means to me and, my teammates and the coaching staff. And, man, it feels so good, though. You set out a goal day one and, you're looking around the room at the type of caliber guys we have, type of caliber players we have. And, man, you're like, we could do it. We could absolutely win a national championship if we go out there and, do our deal every day and every weekend during the season. And, man, to accomplish that goal is something very special, and it feels so good. It's one of the best feelings in the world, to accomplish the ultimate goal in college baseball.
Cade, I believe you left when you were around 5 years old, right? After Katrina, I'm assuming. Yeah. So when you came back, would you come back with your junior year in high school or sophomore year?
Junior and senior year.
So you came back and immediately, didn't y'all win 2 straight state titles when you got back to New Orleans?
Yeah, in baseball. Yeah.
I mean, seriously, think about it. You ended your high school career with 2 state titles. That's giant in anybody's book. That's something that if you've ever done that, you'll remember the rest of your lives. You did that. That's big enough. And then you end your college career with a national championship and basically a franchise or a program that's been starving for those. I remember in the 90s, we won 5 in 10 years. and then they had won literally since the year 2000. So this has got to be just an incredible feeling for you.
Yeah. I mean, winning state in high school is pretty cool, and I'll definitely remember that. But this one is on a much bigger scale. Just the nature of college baseball and the history and everything that goes along with one, LSU, and two, being a player at LSU, and yeah, man, it's so cool. I can't wait to see that ring. It's
my God! When are you getting it? When are you getting that ring?
Yeah, we don't know, but it's in the works right now. But I know it's going to be amazing.
I mean, you work so hard. That's what everybody works for. It's great to have the individual accolades. Obviously, Golden Spikes Award for Dylan Cruz and Paul Skeens, I think, won the Hauser or whatever award that was. But the team-oriented goal in a team sport has got to be the ultimate achievement. When you had these guys that came in from last year, the new guys, obviously Thatcher Hurd, Little, I mean, the list goes on. Skeens we know about, obviously Tommy Tanks. But when you go back with your ride, I want you to kind of tease people about the ride you had when you went to LSU. You had that incredible freshman year. You had some injuries. You had that big up again, and then you had more injury. Just kind of take us through the 5 years, because this is a lesson in perseverance if I've ever seen one. Yeah, man.
It's been a hell of a 5 years. Man, I had a great freshman year. Came up short in the super regional. That hurt, and had to say goodbye to a lot of good teammates and a lot of good brothers/friends now. And then sophomore year was off to a great start, and then the pandemic hit, which was crazy as its own. Basically the world shuts down and stuff like that. So that was different. Obviously, I've never been through something like that in my life, and junior year had a really bad statistical season. Also came up short in the super regional Tennessee. So once again had to say goodbye to some really good teammates and really good brothers and friends. New staff, so had to deal with that, kind of acclimate to a new staff with Coach Jay. Things are looking good. Playing really good. Feeling honestly the best I've ever felt in my life, and Coach Jay will tell you that, and our hitting coach will tell you that. And blow out my knee the first game. So that was another thing I was new to. I'd never had a major injury like that before. So basically I got sidelined for the whole year, and, was just rooting the boys on, even though I couldn't really do anything, was just trying to give my all doing that aspect. And, then again, came back this year, made the decision to come back, go through rehab, every day for 7.5 months. So that was a lot. And yeah, man, decided to make a run at it with the boys and ended it as a national champion. And, I tell people all the time I would do it over 10 times again to, host that trophy, the feeling that we had dogpiling and, celebrating stuff like that.
I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, I'm looking at, besides the home run, let's be honest, this is on the biggest scale. Everybody in the country's watching. It's Saturday night, right? I mean, I had a whole room of people that started watching it. I was at like a tennis club, and it was on, and I'm the only one in the front row seat just watching. Everybody else is just kind of milling around doing their thing. But boy, by the 8th, 9th inning, that thing had 200 people around these TVs, and we're all on pins and needles. Every pitch mattered. That's the thing. Yeah. That game on Thursday night, when Skeens and Rhett Lauder were going at it, every pitch mattered. And the same thing when Tommy hit the home run in the 11th in that game and won 1-0 or 2-0, I believe. And then the same thing happened in your game, and you're the one that knocks the home run. And I don't want to ask you the feeling, because we know that's crazy, but do you realize in LSU history they're going to be looking at this? It didn't end the series like Warren Morris, but it really was the catapult to LSU winning the final by winning that game, because it's going to be tough to win 2 in a row. Not that LSU couldn't do it. They've done it before. But the ultimate feeling in that moment when you got home plate, you knew it was over. The game was over. Game over. You won. Just give us an idea what that feels like.
Yeah, kind of blacked out, just floating around the bases. Obviously, knew it was gone off the bat. Caught it very well, and obviously, you know what that feels like when you play baseball. And just remember looking at the dugout and seeing all my teammates rush out, and everybody's screaming and going nuts. So it was awesome, man. Just seeing all the fans cheer, and we all do the love sign. This thing means love in sign language, so we always do that to our fans. The parent section when we cross home plate. So yeah, man, that was a special feeling, and I'm gonna remember forever. But I can't even do that without, Ty Floyd's 17 strikeouts.
Yes,
Josh Pearson's game-saving catch in left field, and the list really goes on. Tommy had a big homer in that game, and it was insane, man.
I'm glad you brought up Pearson, by the way, because people forget.
It gets lost in translation, but Josh made. Everybody talks about the Trey Morgan and Alex Milazzo play, which it's going to go down one of the best of all time, in my opinion, and it was phenomenal. But I mean, Pearson saved the game.
I mean, that catch was crazy. I mean, think about that. That catch doesn't get made 9 out of 10 times, and that would have ended the entire World Series for you guys, right? I mean, it's game 1, right?
No, we would have lost the first game.
Yeah, but you would have been 0-1 in that game. You wouldn't have had an opportunity to get at bat. That's correct. Yeah, those little things like that. But you mentioned something that hit me because I wanted to take you back to it. When you hit the ball, you knew it was out, but when does it register that this World Series game is won? Because I remember Warren Morris, I had him on a show years ago, and he talked about it. He hit the ball. Obviously, they're down 1 in that game. He's just trying to get on base, continue it. But then he's hoping he hit it far enough to where it would tie the game, right? But then he realized after a while, he goes, it went over, and it said it took a couple seconds for him to register that they'd actually won that game and the World Series. Did you know immediately when not that the ball went out, that you'd won the game too? Because sometimes it doesn't register right away.
No, not at all. In Warren's case, they're the home team, so they're batting at the bottom. So obviously that walked the game off. But we still had to get 3 outs against a very good Florida Gators team. So it didn't register that we had won the game in that moment, but I did register that we took the lead, and it was a big momentum shift. But yeah, man, every out is important, and the game's never over until the final out's made. And it sounds cliche, but in the postseason especially, but in college baseball, anything can happen. So no, I did not register that was the game. It was game over in that sense.
That's kind of crazy. You're right, though. They did have the bat at the end. I forgot about that part. Hey, and also Jay said something at the end too in the press conference that hit me, because the Denver Nuggets, I believe, had just won the basketball title. Taking nothing away from them, they were great, but they got through an 8 seed in the final, right? They beat a 7 seed in the Lakers. And they beat some teams that really weren't like the best teams in the league. They didn't have to play the Bucks, Celtics, a bunch of these other teams that everybody would expect. But you guys took the toughest challenge, and you had the best teams. I mean, Wake Forest, they were number 1 in the country. You knocked them out 2 out of 3. Tennessee was playing great. Obviously, Florida. I mean, there was no mistakes that got to the World Series to play against you in the entire way. You took them all. Even in the first round, Oregon State, you had to beat twice. You beat the best teams that were available to beat, and then you did it. Does that make it even more fulfilling?
I mean, yeah, absolutely. That's just the nature of the league we play in. I would say prepares you really well for that. Every team in the SEC is so good, and that helps you in the postseason. Even a really hot Tulane team at the time, they're playing some of the best baseball in the country. Oregon State's going to be a national title contender this upcoming season. You can mark my words on that. They're going to be really good. And then, Super Regional, you got to play Kentucky, who, played them earlier in the year, same situation, very gritty team. You're like, all right, you get past Kentucky, and then you play Tennessee. Also played them earlier in the year, beat them as well. So, I mean, man, there's no breaks, and I think it does make it very sweet. But, it just makes it that much sweeter to know you earned it and nothing was given to you. There are no cakewalks and there are no handouts in college baseball in our league for sure. So especially in the postseason.
Okay, we just put the 7, the title of the obviously the papers headline, and I remember, I have a friend I was living in Atlanta at the time, but he kept every year he would send me a matted thing of each championship. Obviously, the one in 91, and then the 93, I believe, Wichita State. Then 96, obviously, the great win with Morris. But I had them all. All 5 of them were in my house forever. And then now my son, who went from Atlanta to LSU, he had them in his apartment at LSU the entire time he was there. But now I'm sure you've seen them all. I mean, as a kid growing up, I mean, you weren't alive for the first 5, but I'm sure your dad or somebody had them around or saw them. Now you're on part of that same dog pile that you mentioned earlier in the paper, on the thing that other people are going to be framing. The kids that may be LSU players of tomorrow are doing the same thing. Does that all sink in that you're now one of these 7?
Man. It didn't register right away. you ask around our team, it still felt like we had another series that weekend after the championship. Just that's the way you're wired, and that's the way Coach Jay has us built and, gravitating towards too. But, yeah, man, it's definitely registered now. And, now that we've had, 3 weeks, I think, to kind of let it sink in or something like that. And, yeah, it definitely hits you, man. It's pretty cool.
Can't wait to get into your personal story when you come in next week, because I know it's like the entire time going to Katrina and then coming back and all this. It's going to be great. But I wanted to ask you a question I'm sure you've been asked many times. Maneri, you had him for 3 seasons. Obviously, you had the pandemic year, which kind of took that one out. But then you had Jay Johnson for 2 seasons. I know people have probably asked you the differences and what makes them both successful. Maneri won a title early in his career at LSU in 2009. Jay Johnson did in his 2nd season. What were the thoughts as far as like how these two compare in your mind?
I mean, yeah, at the end of the day, they're winners, and they both want to win at the highest level, and, have a lot of love and respect for both of them. Both of them let me live out my dream by playing baseball at LSU. So I'm forever indebted to both of them. In terms of Coach Jay, I mean, he's just a relentless worker. He's so dedicated to every single person in that building, not just the clubhouse, but every member of the staff, every member of the training staff, managers, the list goes on. And, LSU is very lucky to have him, so I would say that to everybody questioning, whether we lose a game or something like that. And, you see the Fire Jay Johnson tweets, like people need to get a grip. You don't realize how lucky you are with this guy at the head of the realm.
Drives me nuts when I see that stuff. But if I say this, Jay Johnson, laser focus. It's crazy because he's also great at getting back with people immediately, even peons like me. And I noticed there was a stretch, but leading into the World Series when some of the naysayers that he wasn't as quick to get back, and he just said, "Hey, I'm all about this team. I'm focusing." But I got to bring up the Sunday game because I remember when they took the lead. Florida did 11-3 at the time, and at that point, I looked at the people I was with, and I said, "I hope Florida scores as much as possible because they're going to get the big head, and LSU will remember it." I'm not saying I'm Nostradamus or anything, but I didn't think they'd get 24. I was thinking, hey, get up to 18 or 19, right? And let's just take it the next day because they'll be high on their laurels and resting on their laurels. But y'all came back, and I got to ask you, when y'all started just getting the lead higher and higher and higher, because I got to tell you, I know Florida fans, and they are a pain to deal with. And if we had just beat them 4-3, they would have said, "Well, we just killed you one game. You got lucky in 2 of them." But when y'all are scoring and scoring and scoring, I know you're not doing this consciously, but subconsciously, maybe you're thinking, "Hey, I'm glad we're whipping their butt just the day after they did the same thing to us." Cade, go ahead.
Yes and no. There were no hard feelings. I'll say that. Respect the heck out of those guys over there. They have a great team, great coaches, history. They have a good history in college baseball. But no, we weren't running up the score because they did or nothing like that. We just happened to play really good, and everything finally clicked that last game. But
you were hitting the ball and it felt good, didn't it? Had to.
Yeah, it felt really good. But no, we weren't trying to score as many runs as possible. We knew we had schemes waiting to close that game, and we had to get a lead eventually. Get him the ball probably around the 7th or something like that. And that was kind of the thing going into it. We knew Paul was available at the end, and we were going to get it done. But no, man, especially after that Sunday game where you're getting your doors blown off and. It's almost like you'd rather lose a game that way in the postseason rather than like a 7-6 heartbreaker or something like that, like a 4-3 heartbreaker. So yeah, man, that game was forgotten probably in the 7th.
We're going to be a little more open when you get in this seat because we're going to have fun next week. By the way, I want to get a wide shot here because as you can see, you'll see we have a lot of LSU balls signed by everybody from every sport. Like, go back to Craig Stoltz and guys like that. We've had, if you've been done with something at LSU, you're on this. Coach O, Les Miles, obviously Brian Kelly's on this one. We've got all the basketball coaches have all been. But we, Coach Johnson finally brought me a batting helmet, right? And so I had a Tulane one, and all these guys signed it in football and baseball. But instead of having all the guys from here on out in the sports sign footballs when they play basketball, baseball, gymnastics, well, we started a new tradition. So Mason Katz last week was the first one to sign this. I think it looks real cool. And Jay Johnson, who brought it, I forgot to get him to sign it, so he's going to have to do it next week too. But the fact is that next week when you come, we're going to get that Cade Beloso in gold on this Tiger helmet. And so you'll be right there with all the legends on some of these balls. But right here, and we're going to also get you on this one too, because this one's just going to be Tigers only. Like all these other LSU balls, there's some Pelicans on there. It just doesn't make any sense. But we also give gifts. And so next week I'm going to double your gifts up because we have these task shirts that are the best. And you can ask Coach Johnson. They put Under Armour to shame. They're phenomenal New Orleans-based company. It's just the softest material you ever had. So I'll give you a couple of those. Plus I'll double up your gift certificates for the restaurant. That way you can have a big night out instead of a good night. So we're going to do that for you. That's Shays Delachay's and of course Delachay's as well in St. Charles. So Cade, can't wait to have you live. I appreciate you taking the time today, but I look forward to having you in the studio to get your whole story. Okay, my friend?
Thank you for having me, and I'm looking forward to next Tuesday for sure. That's
going to be awesome. Cade Beloso, everybody, not just a fan favorite, he is a superstar in my book in LSU lore for the things he did this past season. Thank you, Cade. See you, buddy. All right, so we're going to come back. Take care. We're going to come back. We're also going to, like I said, we're going to have a bunch of stuff for the next 2 weeks. We're going to have LSU. We're going to have Saints. Training camp, like I said, starts next week. So I want to get into it right now with my man Logan Graffia. We brought him back out. We brought him back in like last fall, maybe November or December. We brought him back to the set. He's been working on this show for over a year. I'm very thankful to him. He's an on-air guy himself in college. He wants to do that permanently in his career. We all work our way up from the back scenes, doing some, start whatever you do. I started with stats and graphics and all that. Then I started producing and sideline reporting, and then you get on there. That's how it works. Well, Logan is a plethora of knowledge. He's got it all up here, and I can't wait to have him. We're going to talk about the Pelicans and their summer league. We're going to talk about the Saints and what we're looking at. They're the favorite to win this division for the first time in a few years now that Tom Brady's gone. And we're also going to talk about LSU and Tulane football, mostly LSU right now. I've got Tulane. I've got Terrence Jones coming next week, the quarterback from Tulane in the 80s, who's still close to the program. We're going to talk more about that next week. We're going to get the LSU. They have a lot of expectations. You know what happened at the media days? A lot of people are picking LSU to overtake Alabama again in the SEC West. We're going to see if that comes to fruition. We're going to get all that coming up next right here on Primetime Sports.
Rock and roll will never die. It's old New Orleans, my oh my. Come on, baby, let's go rock and roll at the city lane. All night, let's roll, let's rock and roll. Baby, do the rock and roll. At Mid-City Lanes, the home of rock and roll.
The recent devastation from hurricanes have caused insurance companies to significantly raise their rates. However, most of them are offering large discounts if you install a fortified roof system, which uses larger nails and has a much stronger, resilient base underneath the shingles. The fortified roof professionals at Skyline Contractors can install these new roofing systems for you. More information is available at 504-355-6845 or at skylinecontractors.us. Max Durbus Realtors has been providing commercial and industrial real estate services to its clients for nearly 100 years. Since 1934, Max Durbus has been locally owned and operated throughout the greater New Orleans area, including the North Shore, Hammond, and even the Mississippi Gulf Coast and beyond. We focus on your commercial real estate needs so you don't have to. More information is available at 504-733-4555.
Hey, welcome back to Primetime Sports, and this is when I have the most fun. When there's no rules, there's no plan, no anything. I don't ever have notes in front of me, but this is just going to be talking sports with two guys that love sports and like to talk about it. But first, I got to say something. Take this wide shot. You see that big thing right there? It's a big crane. All it is piling things in the ground. So if you hear a repetitive boop, 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 they picked the perfect time to do it. We taped it this afternoon. The show aired. I mean, it's airing now, obviously, but it was taped just a few hours ago. But this is what we're dealing with. Hopefully you don't hear it. But let's go back to this real quick. Logan Graffia has been at WLAE for a year and a half. He graduated, unfortunately, during the pandemic year. Not a good time to come out looking for a job on TV, particularly in sports. You know, people are getting leaner, not fatter. So, you know, this guy's persevered for 3 years. He did his on-air stuff at Southeastern University, SLU, Southeast Louisiana University, and he's been looking for full-time stuff on air. So we've been throwing him on air every once in a while. He does a great job filming stuff with the Saints and Pelicans, and he and Alex go out to training camp, and they go do games with the Pels as well. And so he's earned his keep. So we're bringing him out because the guy knows sports. He loves sports. He's passionate about it. He played sports. He played linebacker. He loves it. He wants to play for the Arena Football League. So I'm not holding against this guy. Feels like he can do anything, and he's done pretty much everything he said. So we're bringing him back on today because we're going to talk Saints, LSU, and Pelicans. And who knows, we might need to get more. But here he is again, Logan Graffia. What's up, my friend?
What's up, Scott? Thanks for having me back.
You're looking sharp, dude.
Thank you. Last time I actually wore this suit was actually at the Christmas party.
I remember how.
Yes.
Did you have the tie combo too?
Yes, I actually bought this. The shirt and tie combo came in a pack together, so I bought
pack together.
Pack
like
together.
Old school. That is old school, Logan. Well, you look good. Let's go back. Let's start talking about, you know, the sport you love the most, football, right? I mean, it's right here. We just talked a lot with Cade Beloso talking baseball. I know you're a football guy. You love hoops too. I mean, you got your opinion. I still think at 58 I could take you in hoops. But in football, I wouldn't want to get on the field with you. You look like you get hit like a Mack truck. So what's your favorite part of football in general? I just want to get that out of you.
Well, I mean, besides hitting people legally and not getting in trouble for it,
there it is.
Just being around a lot of the guys, the locker room, being taught mostly about life lessons from the coaches. I mean, coaches might teach you how to catch a ball, throw a ball, how to tackle, but mainly the life lessons in the locker room.
Well, I'm glad you said that. You remember last week our guest, Mason Katz, you know, who went to the World Series himself, and he played LSU baseball 2010 to 13, right? He got there right after LSU won their last title. They got close, but he said of all the accolades he got, he was All-American. First team All-American his senior year, All-SEC 3 years. He said what you just said. It's all about the guys in the locker room and the camaraderie. There's something to be said for that in football, huh?
It really is. I mean, and I can't say the same for every sport because, I mean, some sports like basketball, there's only like 15 guys in there.
It's the same in basketball, trust me. Not as much, so football is more of a team sport.
With football, it's just the locker room. That's just one thing that everybody misses. I remember watching a documentary, I think, called Manning. Cooper was talking to him about how the one thing that they missed was the locker room. And
was it the Book of Manning?
Something to that effect. It was on SEC Network, yes. Right, yeah. And that's probably the one thing I miss right now the most, besides practicing with my teammates and the locker room, actually, after a game, actually, win or lose.
The reason I say football is more of a team sport than basketball, basketball is a team sport. And to be successful like the Nuggets, you have to play as a team. But you can get by with a superstar just doing his thing at the end of the game. Football, you have to have all 11 guys on both sides of the ball, particularly on your unit, doing everything right to make that play right. And that's a lot of guys that have to be doing things right. You know, obviously, if the offensive tackle just misses an assignment, the quarterback gets plastered, right? So that said, I'm going to segue to the Saints because that was a big issue last year, the offensive line injuries. Now, we know when this team was healthy, and particularly a few years ago when they had Armstead still, they had the elite offensive line in the NFL, in my opinion, when healthy. You had Ramczyk on one side, Armstead the other. You lose Armstead, but you got some guys coming in that played very well, but they were rarely healthy, and that's a problem. The Saints had the most injuries in the NFL history over a 2-year period. They certainly in 2021 had the most of all time, and then 20 wasn't a ton better, but still, when you put the 2 years together, so that matters, particularly in units like the trenches and particularly on offensive, because those guys have to be in sync. Now, when you look at this year's offensive line, because I'm going to start in the trenches because those are the guys you got to get by to make those tackles, right?
Yes.
Tell me what sticks out for you for the Saints team and what they have to do right to live up to the expectations the odds makers have given them to win the NFC South.
So first of all, of course, stay healthy. That could be said about every team. And left tackle, I want to see a full season of Trevor Penning at left tackle,
right,
and not James Hurst. I want to see if
tell people who he is. He was the first-round pick last year.
He was
right?
the first-round pick last year. He got injured in preseason. I think someone rolled up on his foot, and he was out for majority of the season. Yeah. Then I also want to see Cesar Ruiz. Is he going to take that another step? I mean, having Doug Marrone last year probably helped him a ton because, I mean, Doug Marrone has been around a long time. He's been great with offensive linemen in college and in the NFL. So mainly those are the two spots that I would look at. I mean, you got Eric McCoy at center still. You got Ramczyk. Left guard, I mean, Andres Pete, I have my opinions on him. I wish they would have upgraded left guard, but we'll see how that goes. If he goes down, I'm comfortable sliding James Hurst, the left guard.
James Hurst is a nice little Swiss Army knife to put in, right?
Yes, exactly. Kind of like how Will Clapp was a few years ago.
Right.
Or Sino Clemente.
Sino Clemente was that guy for the Saints a few years ago, and then he went out free agency, went with the Texans, I believe, and maybe some other teams. But that's it. I actually talked to Marrone this morning. That's why I started off the offensive line. He feels very good about this. Now that he's had a year under his belt, this is a former NFL head coach. He was the coach of the year with the Jaguars. And then life in the NFL, you get fired a year or two later, right? And then obviously he had a little run with the Bills as a head coach as well, and Syracuse. So he knows a little bit of offensive lines. He's very optimistic. But like we said, Penning is a key, and people forget that's basically your first-round pick this year, right? Because Penning was the guy that was the second first-round pick of the two. Chris Olave was the first one last year and played almost to Rookie of the Year standard. I mean, he was definitely that good for the Saints. Now, you got to get Penning is the guy that they actually ultimately got to replace Teron Armstead long-term, right? And he didn't get to show last year, but he's going to have a year under his belt watching the team, following him, getting a little action at the end. Now let's go to what the fans pay to see, the skill position players. Okay, I want you to talk about the running back situation because you brought in a guy that gets a lot of touchdowns, the most in the NFL last year. You got a rookie, the third round, who's highly touted. He didn't get to play in the national championship game, which definitely hurts TCU. They might have only lost by 40 instead of 90. But the fact is Miller's going to be a good one, we just mentioned Jamal Williams. But then you got Kamara's situation, and he'll probably get 2 or 3, 4 game suspension at most because it's now a misdemeanor. But I want you to talk about that combined with the Michael Thomas to team up with Olave, and then bring in a Foster Moreau to go along, and then Derek Carr. So that's the guys that are going to get the hot headlines. Tell me what you think about those units.
So for the running back unit, I think the one thing you have to think about, when the Saints were at their best, they had a great three-headed monster in the backfield, 2009, 2011.
What's your favorite three-headed monster they had? Do you remember? Like the Chris Ivory's, I mean.
2011 has to be my favorite. I love
Pierre Thomas.
Darren Sproles, Pierre Thomas, rookie Mark Ingram. I mean, just Darren Sproles, just being able to go out wide while Pierre Thomas is like next to Drew in the shotgun. I think you're going to see a lot of that this year, actually.
That was the best offensive team I've ever seen.
That's still the best offensive team stat-wise in NFL history, yes.
NFL history. They were just fun. They were fun to watch.
Now, as for Foster Moreau, the tight end room got a lot stronger when he signed here. I love how Juwan Johnson has steadily gotten better each and every year. Foster Moreau, I think he's going to probably be tight end 1, if you ask my opinion.
Yeah.
Because him and Carr have that chemistry already from Oakland/Las Vegas.
He's been there, done that a little more than Johnson, right? I mean, obviously in Taysom Hill, he's going to be whatever.
And one sleeper, I could say, Lucas Kroll. I mean, I've heard the team really likes him.
I like him too.
I like him a lot too. Now, he's probably going to be one of those blocking types. He's not going to be out there like catching.
Certainly not in the beginning, I wouldn't think.
Not at all. And, I mean, you have Derek Carr. I mean.
Talk about that, because everybody – I love Derek Carr, first of all.
Yes.
But I want your opinion because everybody has their own opinion like they know. I just see a leader. I see a guy with touch and a strong arm. What's your opinion about him, and what can he bring to the Saints that they didn't have for 2 years?
So I've been to many camps with and without Drew. I went in high school when we had Drew, 2015, and – I'm getting the same vibes. It's like Drew's back in the build. I'm not saying Derek Carr is Drew Brees at all. We'll never see another Drew Brees, but it just feels like it's different. Last year, it just felt like it was loose and more about having fun, not working. This year, it just seems like, hey, we're working. Let's go out and do it. They're flocking to Derek Carr. He's got command of the huddle.
That's a big deal,
already.
man. It's a big deal.
And what I'm seeing is he looks really good. He looks like he's ready to kind of just tell the league, hey, I'm better than what I looked in Las Vegas and Oakland. I have better players.
So is this
here.
video you and Alex Chacon got?
Yes.
Is this y'all's video? They shot this. I mean, I'm proud of these guys, man. They went to camp and got some really nice video. That's mini camp, of course. Carr has a presence about him, like you said. And what I also love about Logan, he's got a chip on his shoulder.
Oh, yes, I love it.
Because people forget that, I don't care what you think about fantasy football, but it is kind of a barometer for a lot of things. This guy was a top 10 quarterback pick for a few years here. And people want to remember that, Josh McDaniel came in, and Josh McDaniel has butted heads with many quarterbacks before. Ask Jay Cutler, ask a bunch of them.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not like Carr was a bad guy or was a bad influence or locker room. He's just the coach who was a New England Patriots, Belichick guy for years. He's got that my way or the highway thing, and they just didn't sync. And I'm gonna tell you who was most upset that Carr was kind of sent packing, relatively speaking, by Josh McDaniel was Devontae Adams, who was his teammate at Fresno State, who went to the Raiders in Las Vegas from playing with Aaron Rodgers because he loved Carr that much. So Carr's got to still, and Carr's what, 31 years old?
He's about 31, 32.
He's not old, right? And we've seen quarterbacks playing in their 40s. So this could be a guy, if the cards play out right, that could be here for 10 years.
Anything's possible. I mean,
Right.
Tom Brady played till he's 45, so
but he could play for a long time, is what I'm trying to say, right?
He could probably play till he's at least 40, depending on if he gets beat up
deal,
or not.
correct? So I mean, he's got guaranteed money in that deal, so they're not going to just. They're going to give him every opportunity in the world to be super successful, and they put in the pieces around him, which leads me to Michael Thomas coming back. Can Michael Thomas be anything like he was in 2019 and before?
I think he can. I mean, he was a big part of the recruitment process for Derek Carr. I mean, I was hearing rumors that he didn't really want to come back because he didn't like the quarterback situation with, Jameis, Andy Dalton, Trevor Siemian. I mean, who would want to come back to
Ian
that?
Book, yeah.
Ian Book.
Right,
so
right. It wasn't pretty.
I mean,
Taysom Hill,
now you have,
not a passer.
Now you have Derek Carr as quarterback, who's been top 15 in the league since he's entered it. So, I mean, why wouldn't you want to play for him? And like I said, he was a huge part of the recruitment
process.
process.
First overall pick, right? I know his brother was a first overall pick, but he was a high pick.
He was a second-round pick.
He was a second-round pick. Okay, his brother was the first overall with the Texans when they were in expansion. But this is a guy that's proven it in the league.
Oh, yeah.
Now, the defense had some injuries last year, too, and I'm going to start with the safety position because you had two established veterans that didn't play like established veterans. One of them, had some injuries with, Marcus May, and then you had the situation with, Honey Badger. This is going to be Honey Badger's make or break year. We know he's getting old in the tooth, but he doesn't play cornerback, so it's not like you have to keep up with the receivers. You just have to be smart and hit people and make plays, be opportunistic, and that's what Honey Badger's done his entire career from his LSU days, obviously early in his career with, several teams, the Cardinals and all these other teams he played for, and the Chiefs, obviously he's done great things there. But the fact is what do you think that safety position, and then you had injuries I'm talking about the entire defensive backfield now with Lattimore coming back, Adebo was in and out a little bit. What about these guys, and can they be as effective as they were 2 years ago?
I think they can. I mean, like I said, health is the big main factor.
Let's assume they're healthy.
Healthy, I think this could be a top probably 5 to 7 unit. I really think so.
The unit or the defense as a whole?
The defense as a whole, I think, could be top 5. I mean, I love all the staff members that they brought on. Joe Woods, he's been a DC secondary as a specialty.
Yeah.
Todd Grantham is I absolutely love the pickup for the defensive line coach. People think.
Oh, love him.
The people are saying, man, losing Nielsen was big. Yeah, it was, but we got Todd Grantham. Everywhere he's been, the defensive line is
They get better.
Proof from here to here. I mean, look at his NFL record.
Are you as worried about everybody else losing the interior defensive lineman to free agency, et cetera?
Not really, because, I mean, we lost some older guys. Davenport, he got half a sack last year.
Is that all he had? The whole year?
Half a sack.
Well,
and
he was
David Onyemata, I mean, he was still productive, but kind of up there in age. But we got a lot of young guys up front now. We got Kalen Saunders, big guy. We got Nathan Shepard, another big guy. You're getting Todd Grantham as defensive lineman. Todd Grantham always likes his defensive lineman on the bigger side, and also they play fast. Kalen Saunders is pretty fast for a 300-pounder.
I want to get to LSU, so I don't want to leave out some two established guys, Demario Davis and Cam Jordan. Obviously, these are mainstays on the defense. They're going to be known as Saints greats when they retire, but we know what they got. Pete Werner, before he got hurt, I thought was playing amazing football. He's a guy that every team wants on their team. Other teams don't like to go against because he just makes play after play after play after play. And I want you to talk about him and the emergence of whoever is going to take the mantle on the other side of Cam Jordan on the defensive end position. You got a couple of veterans in there. You got Peyton Turner, who we're waiting to see if he's worth the draft pick that Sean Payton took him in the first round. So what's your take on linebacker and defensive end positions?
Linebacker, I mean, man, I think we are really great at linebacker. Of course, you mentioned Demario, Pete Werner. Then behind them, I mean, you got a couple undrafted guys like Nick Anderson's. I would like to see him make the team. You got Jackson from last year, who was hurt. I was really high on him coming out of college. Then as for defensive end, I think Granderson's going to be okay. But Foskey, that was a great pick. I think Foskey's going to be around for
second-round pick from Notre Dame.
Yes, he's going to be around a long time. I think he's really going to be
Foskey,
great.
Granderson.
Turner's got to show me something.
But he's got the athletic ability. This could be a position of strength if they all come through. And then you had the guy who played well last year that came from the Chiefs.
Passingway,
yeah. I mean that's those are guys that have a potential to do well. Now let's get to LSU, because LSU, the expectations are now much bigger. LSU was picked 6th or 5th out of 7 in the SEC West last year, depending on who you talk to. No higher than 5th, though. I guarantee you that. They ended up being 1st. They beat Alabama in the big game. They looked bad after they got trounced by Tennessee, but they took out a previously unbeaten Ole Miss team in the end of October, and then just tarred and feathered them. And then they came back 2 weeks later and had one of the most exciting finishes in college football history, certainly in Tiger Stadium. I've been to many of them. They say that was one of the best. Unfortunately, I wasn't at that one because I had to do my own game, but I've been at many in that stadium, and that was great. Obviously, the A&M game, we all know the circumstances there. And obviously, Georgia, they scored 30 against Georgia in the SEC championship. I say that because that's a moral victory, because nobody else really scored that much. But facts are the expectations are much higher. I want your opinion on this LSU team and Brian Kelly in year 2.
So last year when I was on your show, I told you I think LSU is going to get 10 wins, and they actually did, the bowl win. But this year, I think, 12 and up, it has to be the goal. I'd see 12 and up.
Okay, so what do you think regular season? Let's just go there. You think that means a 1-loss regular season?
I think there's going to be 1 loss. I don't know to who, because I'm looking at the schedule, and
Florida State off the bat is like going to be ranked right around where they are.
I think we can beat Florida State this year, because last year LSU was just a team just finally finding its way. That last quarter, that last 1 minute of that game, that was like, okay, we're finally gelling together as a Brian Kelly LSU team. This year, I think we can beat Florida. I'm very high on Jaden Daniels.
You got a lot of games, man. Going up to Alabama is going to be like going in the Lions' den. Saban hates losing. Remember when Les Miles had a 2-0 edge on Saban at one point, and they had just beat him 9-6? He took it out on Les Miles in that game, in the championship game. We all know the score, 21-0, probably the most embarrassing loss in LSU history, the way it happened. But the fact is I think that's going to be a tough one, man. I think Bama's going to be ranked higher than you. You can say what you want about the preseason expectations, but the fact is Bama's still Bama.
Yep,
they are replacing the #1 pick of the draft, right? But the fact is that's a quarterback. But they seem to reload. They don't have to rebuild.
The one team on the topic of Bama, the one thing that doesn't really worry me as much as everyone else is the quarterback room at Bama is kind of weak this year. If they believed in Jalen Milroe or Ty Simpson, they wouldn't have went out to the transfer portal and gotten the Notre Dame guy for Tommy Rees.
Right.
So, with that being said, the one team on
Tommy Rees is the offensive coordinator.
The offensive coordinator now.
And he's phenomenal, by the way.
Yes. The one team on the schedule that I think worries me the most, if this team is healthy, they worry me, is Arkansas.
Yeah.
Because KJ Jefferson, when he's healthy, he looks like a great value.
He's a poor man's Cam Newton.
Yeah, I was about to say a great value Cam Newton.
Oh, were you really?
I really was.
Okay,
so,
yeah.
I love what Arkansas is doing. I hate saying that because, that's the rival. But, the Razorbacks, I think, is a sleeper team on the schedule. I really do.
Hey, don't sleep on Florida State, because they have their quarterback back, and he had a great second half of the season, just like Jaden Daniels. So that, I just was around some Florida State people this past weekend, and they were telling me they're excited, just like we are. They're just as excited. They're going to be a top 10, maybe in the lower half of the top 10 team, and that game is in Orlando this year. We all remember what happened with the blocked extra point. LSU looked terrible for 3 quarters, but I give them, it showed me something when they had the fight to come back. So that's when I realized Brian Kelly might be onto something good, because I wasn't all in on Kelly. And then he came on the show and signed this ball, first one, and after speaking with him, I understand now why he's successful. The guy's going to be successful at LSU. And he put the pressure on himself. He says, listen, Kim Mulkey won a championship. Jay Johnson won a championship in their second year. It's my second year. Pressure's on, right?
Oh, yes. So
let's talk real quick about the Pelicans. Let's do it a minute or so. You watched the Summer League. I know you love basketball as well. Tell me what you thought about the Pelicans guys coming in, those rookie guys I talked about in the Open, and also what your prognosis for the season is going to be.
So Dyson Daniels, I mean, I've had my negative opinion.
The #1 pick last year.
I've had my negative opinions on him. He looked phenomenal. I got to say,
strong, huh?
He looked like he added some muscle. He bulked up a little bit. I mean, he was making great passes. His defense was on point.
They gave him the ball too. He had the ball in his hands.
He was the ball handler throughout the summer league, and he was scoring. And I was very impressed. Then you have EJ Liddell.
Let me remind people, that's the kid from Australia that was picked, I think, 8th overall last year in 2022. 8. And he had some great defensive moments during the year. He was in rotation for a bit. He had some injuries then
he got hurt.
But that's a guy that is going to be expected a lot of this year, I feel. So you're right about that. Continue.
Yes. Then you got EJ Liddell, who tore his ACL last year in Summer League. And coming out of college, I mean, I know we talked about this off camera. I said he might be like a great value or a poor man's Paul Millsap.
Well, he was supposed to be a first-round pick last year. He lasted for the Pelicans in the second round. They got so basically in a lot of people's minds, they got two first-round picks.
Yes.
And so he looked like he's healed.
Yes.
He's coming along. Gave him a 20-minute restriction for games, but he's going to be ready for camp. That's big. So these give you pieces to go along with. We know the guys, if Zion doesn't get traded, you know, Zion, if he's healthy, B.I., McCollum, Jonas. I mean, they got a lot of, but you have to have these supporting cast through the season, because we know injuries, just like in football, are a way of life in the NBA, and they take many precautions in basketball. So if you got a hangnail, you're going to sit for 2 games. It's just the way it is. They don't make Karl Malones anymore, where they play all the time. LeBron James is probably your closest. But your prognosis on this team, if healthy, let's just say normal healthy, as opposed to B.I. sitting out 30 games, Zion missing 50, that kind of thing.
So we saw what this team was when healthy all the way up to December. There was a #1 seed. I think they can, if healthy, I think they could be a Western Conference Finals team. If injuries, of course, happened, and probably maybe an 8 seed.
Well, we saw it with the Nuggets, man. The Nuggets they weren't picked to be great, but they were just by process of elimination. There's a lot of good teams in the West.
Oh, yes.
They just weren't the Warriors, like the past Warriors of 16, 17, 18, that were just that far ahead. So this is like Memphis and Phoenix has obviously picked up Bradley Beal. There's a lot of teams that can do it. You know, Golden State's going to come back. They got Chris Paul now, but the Pelicans should be in the mix if healthy, correct?
If healthy, and I'm also curious to see how this offense looks now with James Borrega as assistant head coach, which is the de facto offensive coordinator in NBA terms.
You know what I can't wait to see also is Tulane football. We don't have much time because we're going to talk Tulane next week, but Tulane football coming off that great year where they finished ranked ahead of LSU. They were ranked 9th in the country, which was spectacular to me, and they got Michael Pratt coming back when he could have gone to the University of Florida to play in the portal. He came back. You've got a lot of great players coming back, some of the offensive linemen that could have gone, and so I'm looking forward to seeing what Willie Fritz does coming off of that great season, off of that great USC win in the Cotton Bowl, and what they do. So a lot of reasons to be excited about the fall here in New Orleans.
Oh, yes. I mean, keeping Michael Pratt around and also Willie Fritz around was huge for Tulane. So I think this team, Tulane team, can probably make it back to another bowl. I don't know if they're going to make it up, climb the rankings again, but their conference is getting kind of easier. Everyone's leaving.
Well, they're leaving, but they're still some good teams. Hey, Logan, I appreciate you, man. You did a fantastic job.
Thank you.
This guy does all the work in the back, along with Alex and obviously our interns, and of course, Sean and Daniela, and of course Will back there is the maestro of it all. But he is an integral part of our show, and I'm glad we got him out here because he does a great job all the way around. Task performance for you, big dog.
Oh, yes.
There you go. I don't know if you got that color. We're going to get you a little Shays Della Shays. Get out there and enjoy a little something to eat. Get that linebacker in you. There he is. Once again, thank you.
Thank you so much.
That's Logan Graffia. If you're out there looking for somebody to be a reporter, that's your guy right here. Get on him. Hey, I want to thank everybody. Like I said, Will and everybody in the back, fantastic. Yeah, we have great leadership here at WLE. I'm very proud and happy to be a part of it with Jim Dotson and Ron Yeager, and of course everybody else here affiliated. We'll see you next week. We're gonna have some busy shows, man. I've already lined up a bunch of ex-LSU quarterbacks, a bunch of like Tulane quarterbacks for the next few weeks. The next couple are gonna be great. You're gonna hear guys like Jeff Wickersham, Herb Tyler, Terrence Jones, Rock Honus. These are legends at their schools, and so many more. I've been hitting it hard, so get ready because football season's around the corner. Next week, Saints training camp. Get excited because we are right here on Primetime Sports.